I'm going to walk you through how to complete the 3D photo effect in Photoshop. The ones that kind of look like this crystal ball, my kids, and the jumping cat. So first thing you want to do is you want to download whatever image you want to apply this 3D effect to, download it to your computer, and then open Photoshop. Now, in Photoshop, we're going to go to File, and we're going to Open, and we're going to open up the image that we're going to use for this project. I'm going to do this funny looking dog jumping. First thing we need to do is we're going to make a copy of the background layer. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to duplicate my layer. When I duplicate my layer, I need to give it a name. I'm going to name this one Flat. I'm going to hit OK. We're going to repeat that process. We can duplicate the flat layer, so I'm going to right click on it, duplicate layer, and we're going to name this one Pop-Up. And I'm going to hit OK. Now we don't need pop-up and flat yet, so I'm going to turn off their visibility. And then I'm going to select, so I'm going to click on my background layer to select it. Now we're going to add a gradient fill. So down, excuse me, in our new fill or adjustment layer, we're going to click this option and we're going to choose gradient. For the gradient, I'm going to click my drop down list, and in the basics, I'm going to choose the black and white option. And then, I don't know if you saw what I just did, but after I chose the black and white option, I clicked on this long banner and it pulled this editor up. So that now I can double click this tiny little black square to change the color. And I'm going to change it to a gray. So I'm going to type in the hex code of 929292 and hit OK. And hit OK. And hit OK. All right, next we're going to select our flat layer and we need to turn on visibility so that we see it. We're going to come over to our tools on the left side. We're going to select the rectangle marquee and we're going to draw a marquee kind of towards the bottom of your image, and you want to make sure that you don't go above the top of your subject. So that's why I've started my box, you know, kind of right here so that part of the image is above it. Now, inside this box, I'm going to right click and go to Transform Selection. Inside the box, I'm going to right click again and I'm going to choose Perspective. I'm going to take the handle up at the upper left, click and hold, and drag it in to kind of give a little perspective. And I'm going to click at the bottom and drag this one out so that we get some perspective there. I'm going to take this out a little so that his foot isn't off of it. Now we're going to right click and scale, and I recommend clicking the chain link to unclick it so that it's not selected, so that when you scale this down about to right there, so maybe halfway to your subject, it doesn't make your box smaller. If it's chain linked together and you scale it down, it moves the entire box, and you don't want that. All right, once you have your perspective and scale set to what you want, you need to lock it in. You can click this check mark right here, and that will lock that in. And now we're going to apply a layer mask. The layer mask is down here below your layers. I'm going to click that, and it's going to provide that layer mask just on the stuff that you excuse me, selected. All right, now we're going to add a stroke. So I'm going to click the effects, go to stroke. The color, I want it to be white, so that's good that it's on white. You want the position to be inside, and then you adjust the size of the stroke to what you think looks well with your picture. I'm going to stick with that size, and I'm going to hit OK. So far, so good. Now we're ready for our pop-up layer. So I'm going to first click it to select it, and then I'm going to turn on the visibility. We're going to come over to our tools, and we're going to locate the quick selection tool. Now, to make this easy with the quick selection tool, I'm going to click on this select subject up here at the top. That's going to automatically add those dancing ants all around your subject. Now, if for some reason it has messed it up in some form or fashion, if you need to add to it because it didn't get your entire subject, up on your toolbar with the quick selection tool with the plus sign, you do that, and then you can just start clicking and holding and adding to what you need. If you need to take off something because it added too much, then click this one with the minus sign, and you can start to take that away. Now, I'm going to leave a little extra so you can see what happens if you don't get it exactly to what you want. So now I have the dancing ants going around my subject. I'm going to apply a layer mask. And so far, this is what the object looks like. But you can see this is extra. This doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to make sure that my layer mask on the pop-up layer is selected. And then I'm going to come over to my toolbar and get my eraser tool. And I'm going to erase what I don't need. If you make a mistake, you can undo it, either edit undo or Command Z will undo, and then you can try again. I'm going to erase this. Sometimes you got to get in close so you can make sure you're not erasing your subject. Erase that. And I think that looks pretty clean. That's what I want when you do this image, is I want it to be, your subject to be very clean around the edges so that it looks realistic. All right, so I think we're good so far. So now we need to add our shadow. So if you're on a Mac, you're going to hold down Command, and you're going to click the layer mask on your flat layer. And if you're on a PC, it's Control, and then you click the layer on the flat, the layer mask on the flat layer. And now we need to add a layer below this one and name it Shadow. So I'm going to hold down Command or Control, depending on if you're on Mac or a PC, and I'm going to click the plus sign to add a new layer. And that puts it right below your flat layer. I'm going to double click to name this one Shadow and hit enter. Now we're going to add an adjustment fill or adjustment layer. We're going to make it a solid color, and we're going to make it black and hit OK. So right now your shadow looks like this. We are now going to hold down Command, and we're going to click our flat layer again. We're going to also make sure that we click it to select it, and then command click it so that you get your dancing ants around it, or control click. And now we're going to add our warp. So we're going to go up to Edit, Transform, Warp. And we're going to pull up the ends, and that's going to kind of give it that 3D paper-like look. Once you're satisfied with what that is, lock it in with your check mark. And then we need to deselect our dancing ants. So you can do select and then deselect, or Command D to deselect that. Now we're going to get our shadow to look a little better. So I'm going to click on the shadow layer mask so that it is selected. And we're going to add a blur. We're going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur, and about 10.1 is good. I'm going to hit OK. And then, excuse me, still with the shadow selected, we're going to come right here, change our opacity to maybe about 60%, make it a little lighter, hit enter. And then we need to adjust our shadow and kind of move it in. So I'm going to go up to Edit and choose Free Transform. And I'm going to kind of take it up a little, bring it in a little, bring it in a little, and then lock it in. Now, you'll notice that for whatever reason, sometimes when you do the shadow, it leaves these little white marks on both sides of your picture. We can get rid of that. So, click on your flat layer mask, click your eraser tool, and zoom into it. Let me get over here. And then click and erase it. Be careful not to erase the stroke or anything else. It won't erase the shadow, it won't erase anything else. We're just erasing those little white lines. All right, so far so good. And then the next thing is I'm going to change my gradient fill in the background to kind of match the picture. So I'm going to double click this gradient fill. I'm going to click this gradient bar, and I'm going to double click this little gray gradient square. I'm going to come out into the picture, and I'm going to choose a color to, pull from the picture with the eyedropper to match. Let's see. We'll go with that one. And then I like to also change the top layer, so or the top color, so I'm gonna double click that. We're gonna get that blue. I don't really like this green. Let's come back. We'll go with that one. That's fine for this. All right. And I feel like my picture's a little off center. That's just me being picky, so I'm going to use the crop tool just to bring this over some so that it's more centered. Lock that in. And that's our finished product of our 3D effect with the dog jumping out of the picture.